let's start with this question. Question 1 says, so we're doing question 1. 1.1.1 says we have to solve for x. So the first thing you do, grade 11s, is you must make sure that whatever equation is given to you, that it is written in standard form. So standard form simply means that your equation is equal to 0. So I'm going to bring the 12 over, so it becomes minus 12. That's a mark. Then you are going to factorize. Now, if you're struggling to factorize, remember you can use the quadratic formula. So I'm going to factorize x and 4 and 3, and I get a plus here and a minus there. So that's a mark. And then for the final answer, x is equal to the opposite sign. So x is negative 4. Or x is equal to the opposite sign. That's a negative, so this is a positive. Okay, let's look at question 1.1.2. Here it's solve for x again. So here the question should have said here in brackets, round off to 2 decimal places. Because you can't factorize this question. You can try, but you can't. So this question is already in standard form because it's equal to 0. So we are going to use the quadratic formula to solve this. So we write our formula down. And now let's quickly write our a, b, and c down. A is the number in front of x squared. So my a is 3. B is the number in front of x. So my b is negative 2. And then my c is negative 6. So c is negative 6. Then you take all that and you sub it into your formula. So this will become minus, now b. B is negative 2. So now minus b, negative 2. Plus, minus. And then you write this down. There's b again. B is negative 2. 4 stays 4. A is 3. So 3. C is negative 6. Negative 6. The whole thing over 2a. 2a is 3. All of that in your calculator. And you should get, for your first answer, remember you first do the plus, then you do the minus. So the first answer is 1,79. That's 2 decimal places. Or x is negative 1,12. So how do they mark this question? First thing, they don't give a mark for standard form because it was in standard form. Subbing it into the formula. So writing the formula down is not a mark. Subbing it into the formula, and then 1 mark for this answer and 1 mark for that answer. In this question paper, this was a 3-mark question. Okay, our next question is a third equation. So with a third, you want this, the root, to be by itself. So first thing, get the root by itself and take everything else over. So x is on that side. It doesn't have a root, so the minus 1 becomes plus 1. That's step number 1. So isolating is 1 mark. Now you're going to square both sides. So this will be squared and this will be squared. When you square a root, like here, the root will just fall away. So the answer here is x plus 7. The answer on the right-hand side, I would write it out twice, like this. X plus 1 times x plus 1. So that I don't make mistakes. X times x is x squared. X times 1 is 1x. This is 1x. This is 1. Bring everything over to the left. So this becomes negative x squared. And then I have a positive x here. Comes over, negative. Comes over, negative. Plus 7 comes over, negative 1. Okay, and now let's go to standard form. Negative x squared. So let's underline. This is like terms over here. So here I get negative x. And then they are like terms. There I get a positive 6 equals 0. Okay, so let's see so far. Isolating, you got a mark. Squaring both sides is also a mark. Then this is standard form. That's a mark. Then I don't like this negative over here. So I'm going to change all the signs. So this becomes a positive. This now becomes a positive. And this becomes a negative. Okay, you can do that with equations. So where you have an equal sign, you can do that. Now we're going to factorize, or you can use the quadratic formula. So with this one, the answer is not 6 and 1, it's 3 and 2. If you are confused, use the quadratic formula. A plus and a minus. I get my x to be negative 3 or my x to be positive 2. You get a mark for using the formula or for factorizing. And then you get a mark for both answers. But remember, grade 11s, with this root questions like that, you have to check your answer. To check our answer, you write the question down. So x plus 7 and then minus 1 is equal to x. So you write the question down and then you sub in this negative 3 just to check. So let's write here, we are checking. So now I'm going to replace the x with negative 3 plus 7 minus 1. And then this is now negative 3. So I'm just going to check if my left-hand side is equal to my right-hand side. This is negative 3. If I put all of this in the calculator just like that, then I get this whole root will give me 2 and minus 1. And that gives me 1. So can you see? 1 is not equal to negative 3. So negative 3 doesn't work. So I'm going to cancel negative 3. Then I'm going to check if 2 works, eh? So under the root, 2 plus 7 minus 1 and put the 2 there. This will give me 3, eh? So this is 3 minus 1. And 3 minus 1 is 2. So that one works. So to cancel that one, that's also a mark. So this question was 6 marks, eh? Okay, 1.1.4. There's no equal sign. This is an inequality greater than x squared. So step number 1 is to put this in standard form. So this is negative x squared minus x plus 2 greater than 0. Okay? So let's quickly see. Is that a mark? Yes, that's our first mark. Eh? Just doing that is a mark. Then I don't like this negative. So I'm going to change all my signs again. Positive, positive, negative. With an inequality, when you change the signs, this greater than becomes less than. So the signs change because you're actually dividing by a negative number. You are dividing by that the whole time. So then your inequality sign changes. Okay, so now you can either use the formula or you can factorize. Just remember, you can use the formula. This is 2 and 1. And then by 2, it's a plus and there's a minus. So now we're not solving x. We call these values critical values. So my critical values is the opposite of that. My critical values are negative 2 or the opposite sign of that, which is 1. Now, an easy way to do this, is to write this answer down. So smallest critical value, biggest critical value, you write that down. Then you do the signs again. And then you write x here and x there. Okay, so it will always look like this. So this, and this, and this. They will always look like that. This, and this will always be there. The only thing that changes is this critical value can change depending on the question. But you write the smallest one here and the biggest one there. Okay, so this is like a cheat code now, eh? If this is less than, then this is the answer. So then therefore, x is between negative 2 and 1. And that's the answer. Another way to really understand this is to do the parabola, negative 2 and 1. And where is the parabola below the x-axis? So from here to here, it's above. From here to here, it's below. From there to there, it's above. We are looking for below, so it's here. It's where x is between negative 2 and 1. So that was another way to do this question. So if it was greater than, then you would do the question like this. You would also write this whole pattern down again. So you write it down like that. But if it's greater than there, then this is the answer. This, then you write or this. That is the two variations of this question, eh? So if you really struggle with this, that is also just a little cheat code that you can use. Okay, our next question is 1.1.5. So 1.1.5, x to the negative 3 over 4 is equal to 8. What you can do is, Let's rewrite the question, but let's change 8. 8 you can change to 2 to the 3. And now you multiply this power with the reciprocal. So if this is a negative 3 over 4, I'm going to multiply this with negative 4 over 3. So if this is a negative, this is a negative. If it's a positive, it's a positive. But what you do on the left-hand side of the equation, you must do on the right. So negative 4 over 3. Okay? These two will cancel now, eh? So this is only x. This you can put on your calculator, or you can just say this and this will cancel, 2 to the negative 4. And 2 to the negative 4 is 1 over 2 to the 4, which is 1 over 16. And that's how you do that question. How do we get marks? The first mark is for changing 8. The second mark is for raising that power. And the last mark is for your answer. Okay, let's look at our next question, 1.1.6. So with this question, the first thing I would do here is, here I have a positive 3 to the x. So I would break this up, 3 to the x, 3 to the 2, plus 3 to the negative x, and I would bring the 10 over. So now I notice, but this is 3 to the x, and this is 3 to the negative x. So I can't take out a common factor. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to leave this like this. But to make this negative x a positive, I must bring it down. So I'm going to write a fraction. There it goes down. You see there's no number here in front of 3. So if there's no number, there's actually an invisible 1. It's 1 times 3 to the negative x. So on top, I put the 1 there, and then equals to 10. So let's say, let 3 to the x be k. So I'm going to change this whole question. This is now k, and this is now k. I think it will make the sum easier. So now my sum becomes k, and this is 9, So 3 to the 2 is 9, plus 1 over k equals 10. Then, to get rid of this k in the denominator, you multiply every term by k. So 9k times k is 9k squared. 1 over k times k. This and this will cancel. So the answer is 1. This is just 1. And 10 times k is now 10k. Then, this is a trinomial. So let's do standard form. Bring the 10k over, plus 1 equals 0. And now you factorize. And once again, grade 11s, you can use the formula. So this is 9k and k. This is 1 and 1, a minus and a minus. So I get my k to be, take the negative 1 over, so it's a positive 1. Divide by that 9. So there we go. Or k is a positive 1. So there I solve for k, but the question was never to solve for k. The question was to solve for x. So now, let me wrap this out because I don't have space. So now, remember I said this is k. So now I can say either 3 to the x is equal to this answer, 1 over 9, or 3 to the x, which is k, is equal to 1. So now I'm going to solve for x. So 3 to the x, 1 over 9 is 1 over 3 to the 2. 3 to the x is equal to, now I can bring this up because I want the base numbers to be the same. So x is negative 2. And on the other side, 3 to the x, 1 is 3 to the 0. And then this is equal to that. So x is equal to 0. And that is 6 marks, So how do they mark? Okay, I rubbed a few things out, but let's see. So for writing that exponent like that, that's a mark. Then for the standard form, when I factorized, that's a mark. Then for factorizing, that was a mark. And then for your answers, that was a mark. Then for solving both of these is a mark, like doing this. This and this is a mark. And then this is a mark. This is a mark, and that's a mark. So in total, this was 6 marks, Okay, our next question is 1.2, and it says solve for x and y simultaneously, So let's start. Here you have equation 1, there you have equation 2. So I'm going to start with equation 1 and make x or y my subject. So I think I'm going to keep y on the one side because there's no number in front of y. Then I take, so 2x is on that side. Take the 7 over minus 7. Call this equation number 3. Then I'm going to take 3 and sub it into 2. So I'm going to take 3 and sub it into 2. So I write equation 2 down. Let's write it down first. So there you go. Then wherever there's a y, I'm now going to write that. So there's a y. So I'm in brackets, I'm going to write that. There's a y. So in brackets, I'm going to write that. So x squared plus x. So there's my y. So 2x minus 7 plus, there's y again. So 2x minus 7, everything squared, and then equals 21. Okay, so now I'm just going to remove the brackets, eh? Okay, so let's go. Removing the brackets, x squared plus 2x squared minus 7x plus. Now I need to remove this bracket over here, but because it's square, let me rather write it like this so that I don't make mistakes, eh? So first I write it like that. Then I multiply it out. So plus. But look here, even when I multiply, I still leave it in brackets. This times this, 4x squared. This times that, minus 14x. This times that, minus 14x. That times that, plus 49. Only now I'm going to remove the brackets. So this times this, a positive times 4x squared is plus 4x squared. This is minus 14x. This is minus 14x. That times that gives me plus 49. I'm now going to bring the 21 over. So this is minus 21 equals 0. Okay, like terms, x squared, x squared, x squared. That gives me 7x squared. Negative 7x, negative 14x, negative 14x, negative 35x. And then a positive 49 minus 21. That gives me a positive 28 equals 0. So remember, we need standard form. Eh? Now, use your quadratic formula to solve for x. So first thing, I'm going to divide every term by 7. So this is x squared. 5x plus 4 equals 0. So because I want to factorize, I'm trying to make it easier. Eh? Then I'm going to factorize. This gives me x and x, a 4 and a 1, a minus and a minus. So there I have two values for x. I get my x to be 4 or I get my x to be 1. But remember, don't forget, you have to solve x and y. So now I'm going to write one of these equations down. This one, or this one. I think I'm going to write equation 3 down. Y is equal to 2x minus 7. I write it down twice because I want to solve for y. So y is equal to 2. Then I'm subbing in this 4. So times 4 minus 7. I get my y to be 1. And then I do the same on this side too, but I sub in this one now. So this is times 1. I get my y to be negative 5. Okay, so let's mark the questions. So for this equation number 3, you get a mark. Then for subbing it in like that, you will get a mark. For standard form, that's a mark. For using the formula or factorizing, that's a mark. Then for both x values, you must have 2 of them, eh? That's a mark. And then 2 y values. That's a mark. And that's how you get 6 marks for that question. Let's look at the next question. Question 1.3. Question 1.3 says, the following equation is given. So they give you this one equation and they say you must solve for x. So this is not a simultaneous equation. Eh? So we're going to solve for x if y is 3. So I'm going to take this equation and I'm going to make this y. I'm going to make that y 3. So let's write that down. So y is 3. So if y is 3, then this bracket over here is 0. 0
times anything. 0 times anything is 0. So this whole thing here is now 0. So 0 is equal to 0. That's my answer. So that means x can be anything. And if x can be anything, the answer is x is an element of a real number. Okay, next question. 1.3.2 says we are still solving for x. Y cannot be 3 and x is an element of an integer. So, okay, first of all, an integer. So an integer is any whole number, including 0. So any whole number like that. And to the negative side, any of these numbers, but it can't be a fraction or a decimal, eh? So, okay, now I'm going to take this equation. As you can see, the equation is already equal to 0. So it's already factorized. So either this bracket is 0, or this bracket is 0, or that bracket is 0. Okay, so either y minus 3 is 0, or x squared minus 8 is 0, or 5x plus 2 is 0. So, okay, if I solve this, y is 3, but y cannot be 3, and I'm not solving y, or x squared is equal to positive 8. And then, to get rid of the square, you root both sides, and then x is plus or minus 2 root 2. And then on this side, so remember, if it's an even number, the answer is plus or minus. This side, this is negative 2, and then divide both sides by 5. Okay, so there's x and there's x, but the restriction is x must be an integer. So this is not an integer because it's a fraction. This is not an integer because that is a decimal if you put that on the calculator. So for this answer over here, there's no solution. So here we write no solution. And that's for 1 mark, eh? Okay, next question. We are still solving for x. Y cannot be 3 and x is an element of a rational number. Eh? So that Q over there, that symbol is a rational number. Remember, we wrote all of this down already. Okay, so our solution is over here and there. That's x. But now we have to look. The number must be a rational number. Now, a rational number is a number that can be written as a fraction. Okay, and it's a recurring decimal. So if you put this on the calculator, that is not a recurring decimal. So that's not an answer. But this is a fraction. So my answer here is x is equal to negative 2 over 5. That's the answer for that. Okay, I'm going to leave my solutions here. Let's look at the next question. 1.3.4 says, 1.3.4 says, solve for x. Y cannot be 3 and x is an element of a real number. So, okay, a real number is all integers, all rational numbers, all whole numbers, all natural numbers, eh? So, this is a real number and this is a real number. And y cannot be 3. So, our answer is x is equal to plus or minus 2 root 2 or x is equal to negative 2 over 5. And that's how you do that question, grade 11. Okay, our next question is question 2. Question 2 is still algebra. So this is exponents and surds. 2.1 says you just have to simplify that question, eh? So let's write our question down. So 25, x minus 1. So the first thing I would do is always change base numbers to prime numbers, eh? So 25 is 5 to the 2, x minus 1 over 5 to the 2x. Then I keep the 5 and then I say 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 1 is negative 2 over 5 to the 2x. Then you can break this one up. So that one will be 5 to the 2x times 5 to the negative 2 over 5 to the 2x. Then this and this will cancel and you are only left with this, which is 5 to the negative 2, which is 1 over 5 to the 2, which is 1 over 25. And that's your answer there. Let's see how they mark this question. So you get a mark for writing that. Then you get a mark for breaking up and cancelling. And then you get a mark for the answer. That gives you 3 marks. Okay, our next question is 2.2. It says, if x is root 3 plus 2, so that's x. Calculate the value of x squared plus 2 over x minus 2. Give your answer with a rational denominator and without the use of a calculator. So, okay, if x is this, we have to simplify that. So 2.2, let's write the question down. So it's this. So now, wherever there's an x, I'm going to replace it with this. There's an x and there's an x. So the first x over there becomes root 3 plus 2, but that x was squared, and then plus 2 over, there's an x, root 3 plus 2, and then there, minus 2. Okay, so subbing gives you a mark. Then after that, we're going to remove the brackets. So this, I'm going to remove. So I'm going to write it twice. So it's this times itself. And then plus 2 over root 3 plus 2 minus 2. Okay, now I'm going to go. Root 3 times root 3 is 3. Root 3 times 2 is 2 root 3. 2 times root 3 is 2 root 3. And 2 times 2 is 4 plus 2 over root 3 plus 2 minus 2. Now I'm going to add the like terms. Here I'm going to have 3 plus 4 plus 2. That gives me 9 plus. Then 2 root 3 plus 2 root 3 is like 2x plus 2x. 2x plus 2x is 4x. So 2 root 3 plus 2 root 3 is 4 root 3. Okay? That over root 3 doesn't have a like term. This and this will cancel. Eh? So 2 minus 2 is 0. So that cancels that. So far you have another mark. So simplifying is a mark. Then, if you look at the question, they said, give your answer with a rationalized denominator. So there can't be a third in the denominator. Eh? So to rationalize, we multiply with the denominator over itself like that. That's rationalizing, eh? So it's now this times this and this times that. Okay, so on top, I'm going to write the root 3 first. It's root 3 times this over root 3 times root 3. So let's see what's our answer here. This times this is 9 root 3. This times this will give me 4 times 3. So over root 3 and times root 3 is 3. And my final answer is 9 root 3 plus 12 over 3. So there, that answer, if you really want to simplify, you can split it up. Let's do this part. 3 goes into itself once and into 9 3 times. So 3 root 3. And then you do this part over here. 12 over 3 is 4. So then you can say plus 4. And that is the answer. So this is a 4-mark question. Eh? So subbing was a mark. Simplifying was a mark. Rationalizing the denominator is a mark. And for your final answer, that's a mark. And that was 5 marks. Okay, our last question, 2.3 says, if root 10 is 3,162. So 3,162, they calculate the value of this without the use of a calculator. So this is 2.3. So let's do this question. So the first thing I must calculate this. So the fifth root of 316,2. Okay, so the first thing I would do is I would remove the root. So to remove the root, it's inside power, invisible 1 over outside power. Eh? So 316,2 to the inside over outside. So I will do that first. That's a mark. Then I want to write this as something with that because that was given. Eh? So if you look at this, that can be written as 3,162. Why do I use this number? Because there it's given. So if I take that 3,162 and I multiply that with 100, it will give me this answer over there. So I'm going to rewrite that as that to the 1/5. Okay? Then I'm going to say, do you see this part over here? This part. That was given to us. So if you look there, look at this over here. Root 10 is equal to 3,162. So root 10 is the same as 3,162. So what I'm going to do is, wherever I have this, I'm now going to write root 10. So I'm going to go to my sum and write this as root 10. Because that's root 10 times 100 to the 1/5. Okay. Now do you see this is a root? I'm going to do inside over outside. So 10 to the inside, there's an invisible 1. So 1 over, there's an invisible 2, square root, so 2. Times, then 100 I can write as 10 to the 2. So I'm just writing everything as an exponent. When you multiply exponents with the same base, you add the power. So this plus this is 2.5. So 2.5 is 5/2. 1/5. Okay, now it looks easy. This and this can cancel. 10 to a half. Now 10 to a half can be written as a third. So inside over outside. So 10 is here, then inside is 1, and then root outside is 2. So what's another way of writing that? Just the square root of 10. So the answer is the square root of 10. But look at our information. The square root of 10 is this. So now my final answer is 3,162. So from there I go there. Okay, and there I worked it out without the use of a calculator. So how do we get marks? For changing that, we get a mark. Then for putting in that root over there, we get a mark. Then for our exponents, we get a mark. And then for our final answer, yeah, we get a mark. There was many ways to do that question, grade 11. You can play around and figure out more ways to do it. That answer was 4 marks. And that's the algebra question from this paper.